A very good morning. It's just past 8 this 4th September morning and we're back again with Breakfast Show. I'm Anil Thomas. Over the next 1 hour, we'll take you through the major happenings across India and the globe from the field of politics, business and sports. Also a regular segment on health and Good News India story. Our top focus over the day, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's 2-day visit to Russian city of Vladivostok and his engagements across the day, which includes the meeting with the Russian President Vladimir Putin. That's not all. United Kingdom Prime Minister Boris Johnson loses that key vote on Brexit and now mulling calling early elections in Britain. We'll be getting live inputs from our correspondents on various angles to the top stories and other stories. But first up this Wednesday morning, the headlines we are tracking at the top of this hour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrives in Vladivostok on his 2-day visit to Russia. Indian community gives a rousing welcome to Prime Minister Modi. Will hold 20th India-Russia annual summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Terming relationship with Russia as special and a privileged strategic partnership, Prime Minister Modi says both countries cooperate extensively in the field of defense, civil nuclear energy and space. Also says he looks forward to meeting other global leaders attending the Eastern Economic Forum. UK Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab calls violence outside Indian mission on Independence Day in London deplorable. Earlier, Prime Minister Modi had raised the issue with his British counterpart, Boris Johnson. The second deorbiting maneuver for Chandrayaan 2 spacecraft performed successfully. With this maneuver, the required orbit for the Vikram lander to commence its descent towards the surface of the moon is achieved. Enforcement Directorate arrests former Karnataka Minister and Congress leader D.K Shivakumar in a money laundering case. United Kingdom Prime Minister Boris Johnson loses key vote on Brexit. Tory rebels and opposition MPs defeat the government to pass a law designed to prevent a no-deal Brexit. In response, UK PM says he would bring forward a motion for an early general elections. And in the ICC Test ranking, Jasprit Bumrah reaches his career best ranking of number 3 in the Test rankings. Kohli loses top spot in the batting to Australia's Steve Smith. And now for the stories in detail. Prime Minister Narendra Modi was warmly welcomed at Vladivostok airport today on his 3rd bilateral visit to Russia. Deputy Prime Minister Igor Morgulov, Far East Development Minister Alexei Kuslov and Governor of Primorsky Krai Oleg Kozyakho received the Prime Minister at the airport. Prime Minister Modi was accorded Guard of Honor at the airport. Upon his arrival, Prime Minister Modi described Vladivostok as the capital of Russian Far East and the crossroads of a dynamic region. He also termed the visit as an important one to further cement cooperation with a valued friend. Prime Minister Narendra Modi was welcomed by the Indian diaspora amid slogans of Bharat Mata Ki Jai at the hotel where he was staying.
नहीं देख के कौन ठंडा हो सकता है? ऐसे गर्मी
वंदे मातरम, वंदे मातरम, भारत माता की जय, भारत माता की जय, भारत माता की जय, वंदे मातरम, वंदे मातरम, हर मोदी, हर मोदी, हर मोदी, हर मोदी।
बहुत खुशी हो रही है यहाँ पे वो आए तो हम लोगों को एक अच्छा कॉन्फिडेंस फीलिंग आ रही है। रशिया में रहते हुए भारत की एक अच्छी फीलिंग।
भारतीय प्रधानमंत्री हमारा पीएम मोदी साहब जो यहाँ पे आए हैं, हम लोग को एक प्राउड एक महसूस कर रहे हैं। हम लोग गर्व की बात है हमारे लिए, क्योंकि आज इतना बड़ा हम लोग को आज मौका मिला यहाँ पे इनको मिलने के लिए।
ये 100% सक्सेस मीटिंग रहेगी, क्योंकि इसके पहले अपना 5 स्टेट के सीएम आए थे और अच्छा डेलीगेशन, अच्छा प्रोग्राम रहा था। और उस टाइम क्या है, काफ़ी ग्राउंड फ्लोर में जो काम हुआ था वो हो गया है। अभी तो क्या है, पूरे रूप देना है, तो ये मोदी आने से एकदम बढ़िया हो जाएगा।
During the visit, Prime Minister Modi will hold the 20th India-Russia Annual Summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Besides Prime Minister Modi and leaders of a number of other countries will attend the 5th Eastern Economic Forum to be held in Vladivostok, Russia from September 4th to 6th. Prime Minister the chief guest this time around. WEF provides a platform for discussing issues aimed at expanding international cooperation in Asia-Pacific region and developing the economy of Russia's Far East.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrives in Vladivostok on 4th of September for the 20th India-Russia Bilateral Summit and as the chief guest at the Eastern Economic Forum. The summit will take forward the privileged strategic partnership that the two countries share with a new layer of inter-regional cooperation in the Russian Far East.
The Prime Minister will deliver an address. There will also be an India-Russia business dialogue, and for this a 50-member FICCI delegation is also going to be in Vladivostok. So among the potential sectors are coking coal, obviously oil and gas, diamonds, timber, tourism. And from our perspective, we are also looking at the possibility of farming and also of manpower exports. We need to broaden the relationship with Russia beyond civil, nuclear and defense into other areas of the economy. A 5-year roadmap laying out what possibilities we have in cooperating in oil and gas, both in terms of exploration and exploitation and in terms of purchase in the 5-year time frame 2019 to 2024.
The focus on the Russian Far East comes after Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal led a high-level delegation which included the Chief Ministers of Uttar Pradesh, Gujarat, Haryana and Goa in mid-August. While several MOUs and B2B agreements are expected to be finalized by business leaders on the sidelines of the summit, at least 12 would be exchanged in presence of Prime Minister Modi and President Putin.
There will be a very major announcement on India's engagement with the Russian Far East, inter-regional cooperation between our chief ministers and the governors of the 11 regions of Russia. But in addition, science and technology, Arctic cooperation, the whole set of area will be covered.
President Putin has big plans to integrate Russia's Far East with the major Asian economies. Since the first Eastern Economic Forum 5 years ago, this region has seen rapid growth. On India's part, 2 Indian diamond cutting and polishing units have set up shop in Vladivostok's free economic zone since 2017.
There are several sessions involving India at the 5th Eastern Economic Forum. Among them are harnessing the power of youth, logistics, a digital pathway, human capital in Eurasia, and Russia-India business dialogue. The Economic Forum is held on the campus of Far Eastern Federal University, one of Russia's oldest universities, and gives the students a chance to experience world affairs right on their campus.
Far Eastern Federal University plays a key role in the development of the whole Far East of Russia and the Asia-Pacific in general, as it brings leaders of the neighboring countries and all over the world here for events like this, Eastern Economic Forum.
Prime Minister is likely to have bilateral meeting with his counterparts from Japan, Malaysia and Mongolia. India will further consolidate its relationship with all these countries and look for new areas of cooperation in the Russian Far East.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Vladivostok carries great significance. It's a sign of India's importance in the new economic equations of the Asia-Pacific. It also cements India's role in the development of the Russian Far East for the long term. With cameraman Loknath and my colleagues Amit Sahu and Shashank Tiwari, this is Mark Lin, DD News, Vladivostok.
Well, for more inputs on that particular story on the Prime Minister's visit, Mark Lin, our correspondent tracking the developments for us, joins us this morning. Mark Lin, good morning. Mark Lin, Prime Minister's maiden visit to Far East part of Russia and the first by an Indian Prime Minister. Will that open a new chapter in terms of ties between the two nations?
I think so, Anil. This is historic in many ways because the Prime Minister is here. He's the first Indian Prime Minister to visit the Far East. The Far East was considered an area which, was considered far away in a sense. And the whole idea of the 50 Eastern Economic Forum is to integrate the Far East of Russia with the rest of the region, in a sense, and through the region with the rest of the world, and increase the potential for business and trade and B2B and all sorts of other agreements and MOUs for a new future, in a sense, future which is directed by technology-driven solutions. And we know that the Prime Minister is a driver of much of this, both well back in India, with Digital India, with Skill India, with these kind of policies and initiatives. And I think that he comes here with, that kind of dynamism to bring with him a promise of India's participation in the development of the Far Eastern region for the long term.
Prime Minister's first thing on the agenda today is a visit to that shipbuilding complex there. Does it present, a great opportunity to learn about, Russia's exemplary capabilities in the shipbuilding sector?
Absolutely, Anil, because you see this particular shipbuilding yard, the Zvezda shipbuilding yard, Russia has developed expertise in building oil tankers, also icebreakers, because this is an area which the waters are quite frozen during the winters, and you need ships that move through that sort of water. And this is the expertise that the Indian Prime Minister will see firsthand when he visits the shipbuilding yard. Now, this is also, we know that Vladivostok has been for a long time an area where under the Soviet era, a lot of the nuclear submarines were in this particular region.
Okay.
So, there were a lot of decommissioned, they were decommissioned over time. And that's why this particular area is an extremely sensitive zone, and it's one of the restricted zones. But of course, it is now a shipbuilding yard, and the Russians have developed, as we said, expertise in building of oil tankers and icebreakers, and things that one can learn a great deal from, because India, of course, also has a good shipbuilding capability. Much of our Indian Navy, for instance, is not a buyer's navy; it's a builder's navy. So we learn around the world.
Okay. Also, what's on the table with regards to the India-Russia 20th annual summit in terms of bilateral as well as in terms of regional issues?
Well, bilateral, of course, we can say that India and Russia are old friends, extremely good friends, old friends which carry with them traditions and a strong connection which lasts for, which is, a time-tested connection. And we can see that it stretches across so many sectors. It starts from government to government in terms of defense and space, and it moves now into business to business in terms of the private sector. And we are seeing that more increasingly because after all, once both these economies were in a sense largely public sector, because under the Soviet Union, it was largely public sector. But now, as we can see, with the opening up of the economies, both countries have developed strong capabilities in the private sector, and the private sector to private sector cooperation is quite immense. And we know that India
Well, thank you, Mark, for joining us with those updates there. We'll come back to you for more updates as the day unfolds and the events begin. Well, moving ahead, the Indian government has has a dedicated desk for helping investments in India and by Indian companies. The desk has managed to provide a booster dose to not only investments in India, but also investments by Indian companies in foreign shores. The Indian entrepreneurs already have an expanding footprints in many sectors in Russia's Far East.
Investments both inbound and outbound to and from India are facilitated by a special desk in the Ministry of Commerce called Invest India. It was set up under the Prime Minister's direction and includes some of the best young minds that have been recruited from top institutions like IIT and IIM, and with work experience in global consulting firms like Goldman Sachs, KPMG and the likes. India is committed to investments in the Russian Far East.
Our Honorable Prime Minister had given a commitment to the President Putin that India will show a lot of interest in this region in terms of investments, in terms of sourcing raw materials, and after that we brought a very huge delegation under the Commerce and Industry Minister, and 6 states had come here, 4 chief ministers had come, and then more than 140 Indian delegates had come, more than 5 MOUs were signed. So these are all exploratory in nature, but I am sure they will lead to a lot of investment.
In Russia alone, Invest India has found 47 business interests across 19 sectors, largely driven by private sector and young entrepreneur enthusiasm. They are aiming to build a new technology-driven future. To encourage young ideas, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will launch the Startup Challenge for Tech Solutions in Education to bring the best young minds to find appropriate solutions to education-related problems. There are many success stories with an inherent India connect in the region. Many of the companies have been active in Vladivostok since 2017 and hope to increase their footprints in the country.
India today is the 3rd largest country in the world in the number of unicorns. In fact, we've added 1 unicorn every month during the past 9 months. We are the 2nd largest in the world in number of startups, and we are number 1 in the world today in new startups adding every day. So all this has been happening is because there has been a great focus on creating an ecosystem. In fact, what Startup India and Invest India have done is specifically work with the state governments to create state-specific policies to encourage startups in those respective states.
Indian companies have invested millions of dollars in the area, and to add to it, many have employed Indian staff in the region, providing them with an opportunity to work abroad and also, in a way, to promote Indian work culture and ethics.
The opportunity is there, when Indians go out and they prove themselves. It's a proud moment for every Indian. It's not only for the company, It's not an easy job to bring in international ties and to grow businesses in the international arena unless you're committed to it. So we feel that, we as Indians, we are proud to be in many parts of the world, specifically in Vladivostok, which is a difficult region. We find success here, we find support here, and we feel it's a proud moment for all.
The street exhibition in Vladivostok takes one through each region of the Russian Far East and the Asian part of Russia. It is rich in its cultural diversity.
Vladivostok is all decked up in a festive atmosphere for what can be considered a festival of sorts. the Eastern Economic Forum. And the 5th edition of the Eastern Economic Forum has Prime Minister Narendra Modi as the chief guest in what is increasingly being considered now as the Davos of the East. With cameraman Loknath and my colleagues Amit Sahu and Shashank Tiwari, Mark Lin from the street of the exhibition in Vladivostok.
United Kingdom Foreign Minister Dominic Raab has called the violence in front of the Indian mission by Pakistani groups deplorable. Earlier, Prime Minister Narendra Modi had raised the issue with his British counterpart Boris Johnson. Incidents of violence were reported from outside the Indian High Commission in London on Independence Day. Meanwhile, another violent protest was witnessed outside the Indian High Commission on Tuesday. Damages has been caused to the premises.
Speaker, following the action by the Indian government in Kashmir, on 15th August, the day of Indian independence, a group of British Indians had gathered outside the Indian High Commission in London. However, they were attacked by members of another community. Would my right honourable friend confirm that the violence and abuse targeted towards the British Indian community on this occasion is completely unacceptable, as it would be against any community on the streets of the UK?
I thank my honourable friend. He's absolutely right. Any violence is deplorable. It shouldn't be conducted in this country or anywhere else for that matter.
Well, after 4 days of questioning by the Enforcement Directorate, the Karnataka former minister and Congress leader D.K Shivakumar was arrested on Tuesday night under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. The Central Financial Probing Agency was grilling the Congress leader for the 4th day in Delhi office in connection with a money laundering case. The probe agency move comes after the charge sheet was filed by the Income Tax Department against him in a local court of Bangalore for alleged hawala transactions. Chief Election Commissioner Sunil Arora assumed the chairmanship of the Association of World Election Bodies, or the AWEB, for the term 2019 to 2021. The decision announcement to this effect was made at the 4th General Assembly of the association underway in Bangalore, which is attended by as many as 120 delegates from 50 countries. A member of the executive board since 2013, India had taken over the vice chair of AWEB since 2017. With 115 EMBs from 109 countries as its members and 20 international organizations as associate members, the association has truly become a global organization to strengthen electoral management in a non-invasive manner. Well, moving ahead, officials from India and Pakistan will be holding the 3rd round of talks on the draft agreement of the operationalization of the Kartarpur corridor for Sikh pilgrims today. The talk holds significance as they come on the 550th birth anniversary of Guru Nanak Dev. The second deorbiting maneuver for Chandrayaan 2 spacecraft was performed successfully today, beginning at 3:42 hours Indian time as planned, using the onboard propulsion system. The duration of the maneuver was 9 seconds. The orbit of Vikram lander is 35 kilometers into 101 kilometers. Chandrayaan 2 orbiter continues to orbit the moon in an orbit of 96 kilometers by 125 kilometers, and both the orbiter and lander are healthy. With this maneuver, the required orbit for the Vikram lander to commence its descent towards the surface of the moon is achieved. The lander is scheduled to power descent between 1 a.m. and 2 p.m. Indian Standard Time on September 7th, which is then followed by touchdown of the lander between 1:30 and 2:30 a.m. Indian Time. Well, for more on the story, Aisha Khanam, our correspondent, joins us on the phone line. Aisha, Chandrayaan 2's planned landing, is it the most complex thing that ISRO has ever done?
Yes, Anil, absolutely. This is the most challenging tasks that the ISRO scientists will be performing. Because this is the soft landing that the ISRO scientists will perform, and this is the first time that they have attempted at such an exploration with this mission. And also the fact that this soft landing is happening in the south pole of the lunar surface. So this is one of the big challenge, because they have to have a perfect straight landing, which has to achieve a 90 degrees angle before Vikram lands on the surface of the moon. And also the fact that this will land on the lunar south pole, where there is where even the sun rays do not reach much, and this is a shadow area. And for this, the ISRO scientists will have to maintain the power for this entire Vikram lander. So this is a big challenge for them. And also they have made perfect precisions for the landing, because this landing has to happen between two craters. And remember, moon surface is a very rough surface. It has craters, it has mountains. So ISRO scientists have decided that the position to land is between two craters on the moon surface. So this is a big challenge, as I have been saying. That ISRO chairman terms this as 15 most terrifying moments of this entire mission. And when we asked him if the ISRO scientists are still terrified about the 15 moments, the ISRO chairman said that this is the most challenging and nerve-wracking moment for the ISRO scientists, because now, so far, they have been reducing the orbits, they have been raising the orbits, and also they have now achieved a perfect orbit from where descent will happen. And this power descent will have to happen as the ISRO scientists have planned to land Vikram on the craters of the moon, and then the experiments begin. And now the ISRO scientists have challenged with them that they have to monitor two separate missions. One is the orbiter, one is the lander. The orbiter is around the moon, which will go around for about 1 year. And now Vikram, once it lands, then the rover will step out from Vikram, which will take about 4 hours later on September 7th. And this rover will be India's pride, because this rover will come out on the surface of the moon, and it will conduct the experiments with the payloads present on its systems.
Okay, Aisha, we'll leave it there. Thank you and appreciate you joining us this morning with those updates. Chandrayaan 2 to benefit mankind across globe. We'll keep discussing that as we reach that final countdown that's going to take place on the 7th of September. Moving ahead, Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh has successfully concluded his Japan visit. In a tweet, he said, "My visit to Japan has been remarkable and successful in many ways. This visit has reiterated our Prime Minister's unwavering commitment to working towards a vision for Indo-Pacific region. During the visit, India-Japan's desire to further deepen the strategic and defense cooperation between the countries and take it to the next level was clearly underlined. I thank the people and the government of Japan for their warmth and hospitality." Raksha Mantri's next stop would be South Korea's capital, Seoul. In Seoul, Rajnath Singh will take part in the official reception and dinner hosted by the Indian ambassador. Raksha Mantri is on a 5-day tour of Japan and South Korea. Well, going to international stories now. More than 3 years after the United Kingdom voted in a referendum to leave the European Union, the defeat leaves the course of Brexit unresolved. United Kingdom Prime Minister Boris Johnson on Tuesday lost the key vote on Brexit. He was defeated after a cross-party alliance voted against him in the parliament in a bid to prevent taking Britain out of the European Union without a divorce agreement. In response, the Prime Minister said he would bring forward a motion for an early general elections. Pentagon has freed $3.6 billion to build 175 miles of wall on the Mexican border. Secretary of Defense Mark Esper has authorized the diversion of military construction funds for 11 wall projects on the southern border with Mexico. Earlier this year, President Donald Trump declared a national emergency in a bid to fund his promised wall at the US-Mexico border. The emergency declaration allows the Trump administration to use money from the military construction budget, and the Pentagon has said it could use $3.6 billion from the budget. One of the most powerful Atlantic hurricanes on record, Hurricane Durian, lashed parts of Florida's coast with wind and light rain as it pounded Grand Bahama Island. Durian has killed at least 7 people in the Abaco Islands in the northern Bahamas and has inundated homes with flood water ahead of its expected advance to the U.S. East Coast. The video recorded over the Bahamas' Great Abaco Island showed mile upon mile of flooded neighborhoods, pulverized buildings, upturned boats and shipping containers scattered like Lego toys. More than 1 million people have been evacuated till now. According to the U.S. National Hurricane Center, Hurricane Durian is now weakened to a Category 3 storm with a maximum sustained winds of 120 miles per hour. Well, time now to get Achal on board to get us the latest in the world of business and finance.
Well, thank you very much, Anil. Let's have a look at those news which are making headlines in the world of business. Airports Authority of India has declared 20 more airports as single-use plastic-free. Now, 55 Indian airports are single-use plastic-free now. Various steps have been undertaken by the Airport Authority of India to eliminate the single-use plastic items at passenger terminals. These steps include banning of single-use plastic items like straws, plastic cutleries, plastic plates, etc. In ensuring the successful implementation of discouraging the usage of single-use plastic items, the Airport Authority of India has been carrying out internal audits. Walmart-owned Flipkart announced the introduction of a Hindi interface on its platform as it aims to tap into the next 200 million customers coming online to experience e-commerce. The Hindi interface being launched ahead of the festive sales has been unveiled after months of intensive research and understanding the requirements of the native language customers coming online. As language is a convenience and not a barrier, Flipkart believes this native language capability will play a significant role in further adoption of e-commerce in the country. BSE Sensex tanked 770 points to 36,563, while its counterpart Nifty ended at 10,798 points, down on only 2 of the 30 Sensex constituents ended in green, namely Tech Mahindra and HCL. However, RIL, HDFC Duo and ICICI Bank were among the top index draggers. Auto stocks witnessed bear hammering followed subdued August sales numbers. Foreign investors pulled out a net amount of Rs 5,920 crore from the capital markets in the month of August. And that's all we have in this edition of Finance World. Back to Anil for more updates.
Thank you, Achal, for getting us the updates in the world of business. Well, after a look at business, it's time now to take a look at sports. Indian pace bowling spearhead Jasprit Bumrah was once again at his menacing best as he helped India complete a 2-0 clean sweep against the Windies in the Test series. Having picked 62 wickets at a staggering average of 19.24 in just 12 matches since his Test debut against South Africa in January 2018, Bumrah has risen up the ranks at a rapid pace in the longest format and reiterated his position as a top bowler in the world. Bumrah was India's record-in-chief as he picked 13 wickets at an average of just 9.23 in the recently concluded Test series against West Indies. Meanwhile, skipper Virat Kohli has lost his top spot in batting to Australia's Steve Smith, who's having a stupendous run in the Ashes series. He's played in the first 2, got 2 centuries, but missed the third one and is back for the fourth, which begins today. Veteran Indian cricketer Mithali Raj has announced her retirement from T20 internationals. She led India in 32 T20s, including 3 Women's World T20 World Championship in 2012, 14 and 16. Mithali Raj was captain when India played their first ever Women's T20 International in Derby in 2006. In 89 T20 internationals, Mithali has scored 2,364 runs, including 17 50s, with a career best of 97 unbeaten. A major controversy broke in November last year when Mithali Raj was left out of the World T20 semi-final outing against England. India went on to lose, and reports emerged of a rift between Mithali Raj and India's current T20 skipper Harmanpreet Kaur. Let's now take a look at the top stories published in the newspapers from the national capital. Our first look is at the Hindu, and the front page story is about Amit Shah, the Home Minister, seeking to reassure Kashmiris. Minister says nobody's land will be taken away, and only government land will be used to establish industries, hospitals and educational institutions. He also told the delegation from Jammu and Kashmir, comprising of sarpanchs and members of the civil society groups, that all communication services will be restored in the next 20 to 25 days. So clearly a word of assurance, and the people and the sarpanchs, they're happy with the development package that's been announced for them. Our next look is at the Times of India. An interesting story in the bottom spread. In 24 hours, 2 scooters have been fined 47,000 rupees. Yes, 47,000 rupees in Gurgaon. Both this, so next time you forget to carry your vehicle papers or you leave them at home, you could end up paying through the nose. In this past 24 hours, this has happened under the amended Motor Vehicles Act that's come into effect on Sunday. So, too many fines that these 2 scooters had to pay. One was fined 23,000, while the other was fined 24,000. Moving ahead to the Indian Express, it's a look at the DGCA imposing more restrictions on travelling in cockpit jump seat. This particular order on Tuesday tightens the curbs issued by the aviation regulatory in June. It has now ordered restriction travel in the cockpit jump seat with an aim of securing safety of aircraft operations. This restriction, however, will not be applicable to crew members, officers of Ministry of Civil Aviation or the IMD authorized by the DGCA to perform official duties among other permitted crew members. Our next look is at brands now going all out to offer you freebies or extra margins that they are looking to give to the consumers. Electronics and smartphone makers are giving retail record margins during the festive season as they seek to ensure a boost in sales. Brands generally pass along 2 to 3% of extra margin in the period between Navratri and Diwali, but this time around that margin has been raised to 4 to 6%, and it's begun with the Ganesh Chaturthi festival that began 2 days ago. So clearly market there going all out to make people enjoy the mood of festivity and offering extra margins. Our final look at the Hindustan Times, and in the sports pages, how the European clubs and the European football, the money ball in this particular season, how has it swung? Despite losing core, smart buys have helped most of the clubs rebuild. The big spenders, if you look, two from each of the top 4 leagues in Europe have been put together. Germany, Spain, Italy and France topping the charts. Germany with Borussia Dortmund and Bayern Munich topping the charts. In Spain, it's as expected Barcelona and Real Madrid. But who's done the best business purely in terms of profits? 5 clubs there making the cut. Also the youngest teenage money list that's been listed here, and Joe Felix at 19 making 138.6 million there as he was brought by Atletico Madrid from Benfica. So lots of people making monies, and money being used in the right direction for promoting the beautiful game. Well, after newspapers, it's time now to take a jog down memory lane, take a look at all the important events that took place on this very day, 4th of September, from history pages.
On this day in 1825, Dadabhai Naoroji, known as the Grand Old Man of India, a freedom fighter and one of the founders of Indian National Congress, was born in Mumbai. He was a member of Parliament in the United Kingdom House of Commons between 1892 and 1895 and the first Asian to be a British MP. In 1888, George Eastman received a patent for his roll film camera and registered his trademark Kodak. George Eastman introduced the box camera. In 1985, the first pictures of the wreck of the Titanic were released 73 years after the liner sank with the loss of 1,500 lives. The wreck was discovered by a joint American-French expedition led by the explorer Dr. Robert Ballard. On September 4, 1998, Google was incorporated as a privately held company by American founders Larry Page and Sergey Brin. Its official mission statement was to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful.
Well, after a look at history, time now to come back to the present and take a look at the events listed for today.
Officials from India and Pakistan scheduled to hold the third round of talks on the draft agreement and operationalization of Kartarpur corridor for Sikh pilgrims at the Attari-Wagah border. Union Finance Ministry will hold a meeting with chairmen and managing directors of 10 public sector banks which are on the government's merger list. The representatives of State Bank of India and Bank of Baroda will be present in the meeting, which is to take place in Mumbai. On the sidelines of the 4th General Assembly of Association of World Election Bodies, ECI will organize an international conference on initiative and challenges of social media and information technology in election in Bengaluru. India is scheduled to play against Oman in the FIFA World Cup qualifier at the Indira Gandhi Athletic Stadium in Guwahati today.
Well, time now to move to our health segment. National Eye Donation Fortnight is observed every year from the 25th of August to the 8th of September. It is a campaign which aims to create mass public awareness about the importance of eye donation and to motivate people to pledge their eyes for donation after death.
Corneal diseases and injury are among the major causes of vision loss and blindness worldwide. Corneal blindness can be treated by corneal transplantation. It is possible only if more and more people come forward and donate their eyes.
There are many causes of corneal blindness, which include the corneal infections, the corneal injuries, some malnutrition conditions such as vitamin A deficiency, corneal dystrophy and many other. All these can lead to opacification of the cornea, and these corneas need to be changed. These corneas can be changed. Anyone can donate eyes. There is no age or gender restrictions on this.
Corneal transplantation is a procedure in which the damaged cornea is replaced by a healthy cornea from the eye donor.
Eye donation has become nowadays very simple procedure. The techniques have evolved over a period of time. Nowadays we are removing only the corneal button and not the whole eye globe, which just takes 10 to 15 minutes of surgical time, in which just that corneal button, which is about 10 millimeter, that is extracted and a prosthesis is fit. It doesn't lead to any disfigurement of the eyes, which sometimes the relatives or next of kin of the individuals, they are worried about. So the entire process takes only 10 to 15 minutes once a team from the eye bank reaches the place where the eye donation needs to be carried out. The people who have healthy cornea, they should be aware that this is an asset that they have. They should take care of their eyes. All the health and hygiene of the eye should be maintained, and also they should pledge their eyes. Once they pledge their eyes, along with that they should make their next of kin aware about their pledging of their eyes, and this may act their last will, so that after his or her death, the eye donation should be carried out by the next of kin. They should contact the eye bank. Eye donation, let it be your family tradition.
By donating eyes after death, you can help a person with corneal blindness see again. So light up a sight, donate your eyes. Kiran Bhardwaj, DD News.
Well, groundwater is decreasing at an alarming rate. Villagers in Punjab do their bit to store water and to protect the environment. Villagers prepare water recharge lake and a water treatment plant prepared by the villagers. Our Good News India story from Moga in Punjab.
The level of groundwater decreasing is a cause of concern, but some people are determined to change this situation. The villages in Punjab under the leadership of their Sarpanch are taking all the steps to protect water. This good news story is from Moga district in Punjab. Concerned about the decreasing level of groundwater, the village Sarpanch Preet Inderpal Singh started works related to water storage and environment protection, and then the whole village got together to carry out the cause.
अपने गांव में ऐसा प्रोजेक्ट जो शुरू किया, जो हमारा गंदा छप्पड़ था गांव का, उसको हमने एक साइड में तो जो रेन वाटर था उसको स्टोर कर रहे हैं 4 एकड़ में, और जिसका पानी रिचार्ज भी कर रहे हैं, और दूसरी साइड में अपने जो गांव का सीवरेज का पानी है उसको ट्रीट करने के लिए ट्रीटमेंट प्लांट लगाया हुआ है। और मुझे इस बात का बहुत गर्व है कि हमारे गांव के लोगों ने इस सभी काम के लिए 80% योगदान मुझे दिया।
To store the rainwater, the villagers prepared a water recharge lake and water treatment plant. 80% of the capital was organized by the villagers in the form of funds. And now this plant is bearing fruit and is being used for the irrigation of around 100 acres of villages.
अभी भी हम जो बाबा नानक है उसका गुरुपुर्ब है, उसके संबंध में भी हम एक बार तो 550 लगा दिया है, और हम 5 बार लगाएंगे। 550 पौधा 5 बार अपने गांव में लगाएंगे।
The villagers put in both their money and effort, and the hard work of the past 5 to 6 years began yielding results. Earlier this area was synonymous with dirt, but now it has green parks, beautiful lakes and water treatment plants. The people of this village not just understood the importance of water, but also took all the steps for water storage and environment protection. They all proved that anything is possible with the collective effort of all. A change in thinking and the right approach is all that's needed. Usha Pawar's report from Moga in Punjab for Good News India.
Well, time now to take a look at the weather in your city. Well, before we end this edition of Breakfast Show, we leave you with a positive thought as always to kickstart your day. Apples are more efficient at waking you up in the morning than caffeine. Our image of the day, glimpses of the unveiling of the logo of the Soccer World Cup to be played in Qatar in 2022. Take a look, enjoy, have a safe and wonderful day ahead. Bye-bye.